Our existence is an astonishing phenomenon, filled with laughter, love, joy, exhilaration, and sadness. Sadness is a reality. We have sad things happening to us all the time. In fact, some of the things that happen around us can be termed as downright evil. And sometimes we have to pause and think, why? Why do these bad things happen? More specifically, if there is a God, then why does He allow such terrible things to happen? One reason why the existence of God and the existence of evil has been historically seen as a conflicting phenomenon is because of the way the majority of humankind defines God. The monotheistic God, the God who is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-good. Because if God truly is a perfect manifestation of these three attributes, then how can He allow evil to happen?
Some people argue evil is a byproduct of free will. That is, free will is a package deal that has evil embedded in it. Because if God is perfection, then by definition, any being that is not God has imperfections. It is this very reason that the angels were confused upon first hearing about God's plan to create humans. They realized what was going to happen if you combined free will with imperfect beings. They said,
قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك.
They foresaw much of what is happening today, all this mindless bloodshed, warfare, and brutality. They realized this was bound to happen, so they were confused. Why not just create angels who were only capable of doing good? And mysteriously enough, the response came from Al-Alim, the all-knowing one, I know what you do not know. Before we delve into that response, the question still arises, even if we acknowledge that human-inflicted evil is a necessary result of free will. How about bad things that happen for no apparent reason? How do we deal with natural calamities, terminal illnesses? Are these punishments for our mistakes? But how can that be when even innocent babies suffer from some of the most difficult illnesses out there? So that brings us back to the question, if God is truly all-knowing and He is also all-powerful and all-good, why does He allow these bad things to happen?
Now, even though at first glance there seems to be two sides to this problem, the problem of human-inflicted evil and naturally occurring evil. However, at its heart, there is a single core conflict.
If we truly believe God is all-knowing and that human knowledge is imperfect, then we are no longer in a position to dictate to God how things ought to be. It is the same confusion that the angels faced when they said, why not just continue creating beings who will not commit evil? The same could be asked with regard to naturally occurring evil. Why not just create a world where nothing unpleasant ever happens? That description, of course, fits the definition of Jannah, paradise. So to combine the two problems, why not just create good beings who will only do good and who will live out their existences in paradise, a world without calamities, tragedies, illnesses, and all forms of imperfections? In other words, the question really boils down to this. Why does this world really have to exist? An imperfect place filled with imperfect beings.
And once again, the underlying assumption behind the question is that I, the questioner, already know how things ought to be. And if things aren't the way that I deem to be perfect, then the God who allows such a state of affairs to exist must not be all-powerful or all-knowing or all-good. Now, from a purely rational perspective, this is a logical fallacy.
And this is pointed out by Allah when He responded to the angels by saying, I know that which you do not know. This is not a boastful statement, it is a mere statement of fact. We have incomplete knowledge and God has perfect knowledge. I know what you do not know. When a being with perfect knowledge, perfect wisdom designed something, it is a logical fallacy for a being with incomplete knowledge to say, if your design does not fit my definition of excellence, then it's flawed.
Now, coming to a more human perspective, how do you deal with these tragedies? Even if we acknowledge that God has a greater ultimate plan, there's no denying that some of these tragedies that happen in our lives are truly difficult. How do you, for instance, console a parent, a mother who's just lost her baby after a few days of delivering her? How do you look into the eyes of a father who's just lost his daughter, crushed by a mountain of debris from an earthquake, and tell him, be patient, God has a greater plan?
At the heart of this matter is, do we truly believe in the existence of God or not? If we do, we will realize that we are created by a God who is all-powerful. For every atom of sadness we have ever felt, God can replace it with an ocean's weight of pure, inexhaustible delight. And if we truly believe in the existence of God, we will realize that He is all-knowing. So He knows that a period of trial, a period of purification is a necessary step for us to attain that state of eternal ecstasy. That had it been more logical, more prudent to directly create us in that state, without the necessity of trial and purification, the all-knowing would have done so. The very fact that the all-knowing, the all-wise, has assigned temporary difficulties for us before giving us eternal ease and pleasure, no matter the extent of that difficulty, it will all make sense soon, it will all be worth it soon, but we have to be patient. Finally, if we do believe in the existence of God, we will realize that He has assigned blessings and trials for every single human being. The pattern of blessings and difficulties are as unique as their DNA. We have people whose wealth is a blessing, but their health is a trial, and vice versa. We have people whose parents are a blessing, but their children are a trial, and vice versa. If we look at our difficulties and realize that despite these adversities, we are in good hands, that even this beautiful planet we call Mother Earth, the only place as of yet in the entire universe that we can call home, was built from rocks in space, smashing into each other, emerging from a whirlpool of gravitational pandemonium and chemical reactions, and yet today we take walks by the beach as its gentle waves caress our feet, sparkling in the rosy radiance of sunset. If our personal sorrows make us deny the signs of a grand scheme behind our reality, that there is a purpose, that there is a specific blueprint for the way ahead, then where does that leave us anyway? If there was no ultimate outcome, if this imperfect life was all we ever had, then how much more tragic is that infant who died before he could even call out to his mother? That's supposed to be it for him? If we all just turn into dust in the end anyway, then what does that mean for tyrants who live like kings by oppressing and tormenting their people? Are they, in truth, the real winners? We must realize that our universe, our lives, our realities are intricately woven into a reality that is far too majestic to be a coincidence. We realize the tragedies and catastrophes are not flaws in the grand scheme of things, but rather necessary components that will enable us to rise. We realize that the one who allows us to feel even a little bit of sadness can give us so much more happiness that we will say it was all worth it. That's why at times of pleasure we say Alhamdulillah. That's why at times of grief we say Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal. That's why we find solace even in the darkest of hours, because we know that the light will shine so bright that we will forget what darkness even meant.